Hey guys, what's up? So, in this lesson, we will discuss the national emergency in India between 1975 to 1977. Although it was not the first instance when emergency was imposed in India, unfortunately, it is considered as a dark day in Indian democracy, and that is why we will discuss it in detail. Many of us don't know about it, despite it is so recent, just 40 years ago it was there. So, this is the part 1. So we will start with the date, that is 26 June 1975. Everybody was sleeping cozily, no issues whatsoever on 25th June. Suddenly, when they woke up on 26th June, there was emergency in India. And Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, the then Prime Minister from the Congress government, she addressed the entire nation at 6 a.m. using radio. And she told that people are inciting the army to disable the government, some of them at least. And in order to maintain the peace, tranquility, in the India and to prevent it from internal disturbances. That was the ground it was imposed on. Emergency is being imposed. However, you can't do it now because it has been removed by Amendment Act. I'll tell you later. And only on the ground of armed rebellion the emergency can be imposed, not on the ground of internal disturbance. There are other grounds obviously. And she said that no need to panic. There is nothing to panic about, and it is for the good of the nation. But there were a lot of things you were supposed to panic about. But anyway, let's see. The unfortunate thing was, like, she did not take the permission of the cabinet, and which was taken after the proclamation of the emergency. And President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmad, like, he signed on the letter which was sent by Indira Gandhi at night itself. So that was done very hastily by Indira Gandhi. Now, when we talk about it, obviously, like, democracy was not there during the emergency, and like lot of dictatorial steps were taken, and people actually in India, despite the fact it was invoked twice, first is during Indochina War, continued during Indo-Pak War, second was during 1971 Bangladesh Liberation War. So but first time people understood that what is emergency. Okay, so because lakhs of people were arrested without warrants, and all the opposition leaders, nearly all of them were put behind bar, they were in jail, and no court appeal was allowed because many of the fundamental rights were suspended. And if you want to know which fundamental rights get suspended, you can go to unacademy.com and watch my lesson there. And police was like severely like all the protests were completely like destroyed, and we turned into a police state within 1 or 2 days. So that was the impact, and the democracy was under siege. So when we talk about the national emergency provisions which are there in the constitution, so you might be knowing that there is a part specifically from article 352 to 360. It deals with emergency, part 18 of Indian constitution. And article 352 states that if the president is satisfied, again the satisfaction is of president, that a grave emergency exists whereby the security of India or any part of the territory of India is threatened by war or external aggression or armed rebellion, he may proclaim an emergency. But during that time, when Indira Gandhi imposed it, there was no armed rebellion, it was internal disturbance. So this emergency can be to one part of the India or the entire India. And the important thing is that it must, this is the key word, even if president proclaims, it must be approved by both the house of the parliament within 1 month. This is again important. Earlier it was 2 months, but 2 months may you can create chaos, so it was reduced to 1 month by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. So now within 1 month, both the houses of the parliament, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, have to approve it under any circumstance whatsoever. And if the proclamation of emergency is issued, if assume that Lok Sabha is dissolved, or during the period of 1 month Lok Sabha gets dissolved without approving the proclamation, then the proclamation will survive until 30 days from the first sitting of the Lok Sabha after its reconstitution. Okay, so what the catch here is, it has to be approved by Rajya Sabha. As you might be knowing, Rajya Sabha is the permanent house in Indian Parliament. There is absolutely no way that you can bypass that. So if it is approved by Rajya Sabha, then no need, like it can continue till Lok Sabha sits after 30 days. And if it is approved by both the houses of the parliament, then the emergency will extend for 6 months, and it can be extended to like infinite, 100 साल तक भी जा सकती है, but every 6 months you need approval of the parliament. So this is called as the periodic check or periodical parliamentary approval. It was not there earlier, and it was added by again 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1978. So before that, once approved by the parliament, like the earlier what used to happen was, as long as the executive, that is cabinet, desired, the emergency will be there. But if the dissolution of the Lok Sabha takes place during the period of 6 months without approving the further continuation, Rajya Sabha has to approve it in the meantime, and the proclamation will survive until 30 days from the first sitting of Lok Sabha. But Rajya Sabha has to approve it at all times. If Rajya Sabha does not approve it and if the Lok Sabha is dissolved, emergency will cease to exist. So these are the provisions in the constitution. Now, as soon as the emergency is proclaimed, so the federal provision of the constitution and it becomes goes away, and it becomes more of a unitary constitution. Okay, and like federal provisions, like union authority makes more. They can legislate any subject in the state list according to Article 353B. So it becomes more of a unitary state, less of a federal state. So executive power of union will extend so that they can give direction to any state executive in the emergency area. Again, like it might be imposed on a certain area of the country or the entire country also. Secondly, parliament can make law on any list, on state list whatsoever. And third is like all the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, that goes out of the window. Okay, Article 19 is suspended automatically. It is suspended if the emergency is proclaimed. And however, Article 20 and 21, they remain intact. So 20 deals with protection in respect of conviction for offences, and Article 21, everybody knows, life and personal liberty. So they are there. Like state cannot kill you because your right to life is still there. They just can't randomly arrest you. Okay, but all the freedoms which are guaranteed by Article 19 of the Constitution, they go out of the window. Now let's talk about the national emergency when it has been proclaimed in India before that. So for the first time, the national emergency was proclaimed in 1962 during the Chinese invasion. So you might be knowing about Indo-China War, where they invaded the Jammu and Kashmir region, that is Aksai Chin region, and Arunachal Pradesh. And this emergency was finally lifted in January 1968, because we had Indo-Pak War in 1965 also. So this is the same instance. Okay, so it's not alag cheeze, but people did not realize that emergency is going on. There was no dictatorial outlook, there was no police breakdown, nothing like that happened. Second national emergency, as I've already told you, it was declared in December of 1971, and it was on the grounds of the Bangladesh war is going on, and it was there till March of 1977. Again, the second national emergency, it's not a big deal. People that were not affected, lives were not affected. But this third national emergency, which we are talking about, between 1975 of June till March of 1997, it was invoked on the grounds of internal disturbance. Now this is very scary, because it created a lot of havoc. Lakhs and millions of lives were affected because of this. But fortunately, as a result of the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act of the Constitution in 1978, it is impossible to declare national emergency on grounds of internal disturbance, because that ground has been removed and it is replaced by armed rebellion. So that is one fortunate thing. Now let us see the traces, the history, how it worked out. So in 1971, there were general elections. So what happened was, Indira Gandhi, she came to power with a huge mandate, because her slogan, you might be knowing about, like people were saying, she said Garibi Hatao. Okay, so like it was a very popular hit, and remove poverty, not the poors. Okay, her popularity, obviously she won the Indo-Pak war, great achievement. She was like a tigress of India, and she had, like, everybody was like bowing to her. Almost all the states of India at that time had Congress government, except in South India there were local governments, but by and large throughout the India there were Congress governments. It was virtually like one party rule in India, like there is no opposition literally. And obviously everybody who gets so much power, so there was a very famous quote about Indira Gandhi's personality, that Indira is India and India is Indira. So because of these reasons, like there was some issues, and the person named Raj Narayan on 24th of June 1975, so Raj Narayan, like he filed a case against Indira Gandhi, and so the order was by the court that Indira Gandhi cannot take part in parliamentary proceedings. She cannot draw salary as an MP. Her election was quashed. Okay, so why did this happen? So let us see why did this happen. So in this case, Raj Narayan case of 12th June 1975, in Allahabad High Court, Raj Narayan filed a case against Srimati Indira Gandhi, and because he had fought against Indira Gandhi in the general election of 1971, and he lost obviously. He told that Indira Gandhi has done a lot of election malpractices under RPA Act, and this obviously like it qualifies, it will disqualify the person, because if you are found guilty of offences under RPA, then your candidature is cancelled. Allahabad High Court, when it did its investigations, and so it was found that one of Indira Gandhi's assistant, he was a government officer, and he canvassed for her during the election, but he still was a government servant. So this is illegal. Okay. So what High Court did was, Allahabad High Court, for a period of 6 years, she was barred from fighting elections. Obviously, like this will lead to trigger of emergency, because like she cannot be staying out of politics for such a long time. And Supreme Court afterwards told that you can continue as Prime Minister, but obviously her like powerful position was at threat, it was dented. So because it was a very stunning, it was a very shocking decision, nobody expected it. So as you can see, the respondent Indira Gandhi is thus guilty of a corrupt practice under section 123(7) of the Act, and accordingly stands disqualified for a period of 6 years from the date of this order. So you can actually see how chilling this line is. You are questioning daughter of Prime Minister of India who was there for 17 years. Then she became Prime Minister of India, and it has been almost 10 years since she was Prime Minister, from 1966 till 1975. And this judgment by Allahabad High Court, it completely stunned Indira Gandhi, who was present in person in the court. So obviously backlash will be there. So also at that time there was a serious conflict going on between the judiciary and government. Everybody knows Golaknath case, they were fighting like cats and dogs. 24th Constitutional Amendment Act, Keshvanand Bharti case. So there was like various to and fro. Basic structure of the constitution was introduced. How far Supreme Court can review, can they not review, what is the position, nobody was clear. So there was a conflict, very major conflict, which was going on between Supreme Court's power of protecting fundamental rights and directive principles, protecting the fundamental rights against arbitrary legislation, and on the other hand Parliament wanted to enact directive principles. So they were fighting. So Golaknath case, Supreme Court said that fundamental rights are sacrosanct, unalterable, and any law which violates fundamental rights is null and void. Obviously Parliament did not like it. So Supreme Court later reversed its decision on nationalization of bank and privy purse of princely state. So there was a lot of fight which was going on, and government, to counter that, introduced 24th and 25th Constitutional Amendment Act. You can read more about them. So what it did, it gave Parliament absolute power to use Article 368. So they can amend whatever they want. There is nothing is sacrosanct now. Like Article 368 said that absolutely nothing is sacrosanct. So we can amend whatever we want, be it fundamental rights. We can do anything we want, and Supreme Court cannot do anything, because Parliament is Sarve Sarva. Parliament is supreme. So obviously Supreme Court did not like it, and there was like Keshvanand Bharti case later on, and then Judicial Appointment, then ADM Jabalpur case, and so on. We will discuss a lot of them. Also role of Narayan during emergency, what happened, 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976, which is also called as the mini constitution, and how was it revoked on 21st March 1977, and what happened during emergency, Sanjay Gandhi, and like forced sterilization and all, we will discuss. So thank you for watching this. Have an awesome day. Hey guys, what's up? So we continue our discussion on national emergency 1975 till 1977, and let me use this red marker. Yeah, so we had discussed introduction and what all instances of emergency were introduced. Now let us see the most famous case in India's history, Keshvanand Bharti case of April 24, 1973. Sachin Tendulkar was also born on this day. So this is considered a watershed moment in the history of Indian judicial history. So one of the biggest judgment ever. I have made a separate lesson on this. You can watch that. So basically what it did was it introduced basic structure of the Indian Constitution. It said that judicial review is supreme, and it is itself is a part of the basic structure of the Constitution. So finally Supreme Court upheld the supremacy of the Constitution by preventing authoritarian rule by a single political party. So Justice Sikri, 12 judges of the Supreme Court, apart from it, total 13, they delivered one of the most important judgment, and the argument were heard for almost 2.5 months. And the question was like, can Parliament amend anything? Is the power of Parliament to amend, like the Constitution is unlimited? So basically, can Parliament alter, amend or abrogate any part of the Constitution? Even like, can they take away the fundamental rights? So if you just read Article 368, it did not have any limitation on the power of the Parliament to amend any part of the Constitution. Meaning कि भाई Parliament can amend anything if you just read plainly. Basically, it do not prevent Parliament from doing it, but is there some implicit limitation? So just by a majority of 7-6, it was held that Parliament can amend all the part of the Constitution, but as you know, judiciary, they introduced one clause, as long as it does not change the basic structure or the essential feature of the Constitution. So this was the inherent limitation on the amending power of the Parliament. So now the Parliament cannot amend anything just because if they want to. So this is called as the basic structure doctrine, and it saved India's democracy, and it is one of the best judgment given by our Supreme Court. So now let us talk about the issue of judicial appointments as well, if we are talking about it. So what Indira Gandhi did not like it. Obviously no government will like it if the judiciary is going against them again and again. So what they did was they appointed Justice A.N. Roy as Chief Justice of India. But usually what happens is the senior most judge is appointed as Chief Justice of India. This is a convention, and everybody likes to follow convention. But he superseded 3 senior most judges of the Supreme Court. Now nobody liked it. Okay, many judges resigned because of this protest to this. Okay, so Justice A.N. Rai headed a bench to review the Keshvanand judgment, but nobody was asking for this review. So you can see where we are going with this. So obviously that bench was disbanded, and Keshvanand judgment lived forever, and still now it continues. But you can understand how people were feeling during that time. Now there is also ADM Jabalpur case of April 28, 1976. In this the question was pretty simple. Despite the presidential proclamation, can High Court entertain a writ of habeas corpus filed by a person challenging his detention? Obviously here you have right to your body, but all high courts had said affirmative, and what they did was they kept their doors open to those people who obviously if you go against the government official, you will risk a lot. But still, against the unanimous decision of the high courts, 4 of the 5 judges of the Supreme Court ruled otherwise, and they were Chief Justice A.N. Rai, Bag, Chandrachud and Bhagwati. So Supreme Court, what they did was effectively ordered high courts to shut their doors and no plea will be entertained. And the lone dissenting voice was of Justice H.R. Khanna. So he is considered one of the hallowed judges in our history. And New York Times said that surely a statue would be erected to him in an Indian city, like that high level. And he is the only non-Chief Justice of India whose portrait is hanging in the Hall of Fame and Supreme Court. So you can understand what was going on. So Supreme Court denied citizens right of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus means to have a body. So there was some bad days. Now let us talk about JP, that is Jayaprakash Narayan. He was called as JP, and he was a freedom fighter who took part in Quit India movement, Sarvodaya, etc. He was involved in Bhudan movement also, which was land reorganization movement so that poor can have it. And he was masses used to follow him like crazy. And obviously nobody likes what government was doing with judiciary. JP was one of them, and he said that judiciary cannot be allowed to become puppet of the government, and it should be free. So he launched a lot of movements against the government, and they were going on side by side. And in 1974 also there was very high inflation, economy was not developing, economy was going downwards, people were not satisfied at all. And so in Gujarat what happened was there was a protest by students against the increased mess bill due to inflation, and a lot of firing happened during that time. But common people supported it, and people got killed, they got arrested, but ultimately students won like they always do. And JP was very inspired from this movement. So in Bihar what he did was, so students rose against the government to meet their demand, and they were treated very badly. So JP took the cause of their movement also, and the slogan was Sampurn Kranti Nara hai, Bhavi Itihas Hamara hai. Okay, so basically total revolution was the word which he coined. Everybody should know that total revolution is associated with JP. So what he said that Indira Gandhi should contest fresh state elections, and she did not agree because it will lead to JP versus Indira fight. And he said to Indira very famous words, Singhasan khali karo. Okay, so Singhasan khali karo ki janta aati hai. So there was also a general railway strike which was led by George Fernandez, and 50,000 railway workers are arrested, families were thrown out of the government quarters. and this was obviously threatening the ruling government because of that. So now let us see what happened during emergency. So there was no opposition either inside or the outside of the parliament, and like there were no rallies allowed, and like emergency also got support from Keshvanand saying, okay. So, but what they did was they introduced a mini constitution of their own, which is called as the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, and obviously, like it was done by Indira Gandhi. So, it is considered the most controversial constitutional amendment because it tried to reduce the power of Supreme Court and High Court, and fundamental duties were introduced to it. And what happened was it was like introduced the word sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. Earlier it was just sovereign democratic republic, so word socialist and secular were added to it. Okay, and unity of the nation was substituted by unity and integrity of the nation. And so writs, judicial review, all these powers of Supreme Court and High Court were also curtailed. So this is one of the biggest thing which they did not like. And Article 368 was amended such that no constitutional amendment will be called in question in any court or law, and all many other articles were amended, and they all tried to increase the power of the government. So basically in one line this was happening. So what happened during emergency was like Sanjay Gandhi's he became like a leader in that sense without any power, and he was closely advising Indira Gandhi in all the matters, and he ordered the ministers, chief ministers. So that is the anecdotal evidence which people have. So the 5-point program which was launched by him include literacy, family planning, tree planting, eradication of casteism, and abolition of dowry. So these were the 5 plans. Somebody might ask me, okay, so the plans are very good. I love all these 5 points. I have nothing against them, but the way he went about execution, that is very very bad. So what he did was he wanted to like family planning. So government machinery was to go for forced sterilization from like people from 18-year-old to 80-year-old. Everybody like was targeted, and chief ministers were given like monthly targets for sterilization, and like they had to do it. In Muzaffarnagar, what happened was people protested against it. Obviously nobody likes to be forcibly sterilized, right? And they were very brutally treated, and 30 people were killed. And Delhi, what was happened was like he wanted to beautify the city, so slums around Jama Masjid were to be removed, and again like 15 people killed. And so basically Indira Gandhi's 20-point program and his 5-point program together, they came together. They wanted to have industrial and agriculture production to fight poverty and illiteracy, but unfortunately it was really really bad times to be an Indian citizen. And it was like Delhi Turkman Gate firing, Muzaffarnagar firing. A lot of people were killed during emergency, which will be always be a dark spot in India's democracy. Now emergency was finally revoked on March of 21, 1977. So all the prisoners who were there, like lots of opposition leaders were arrested. If I have to tell you the list, you will be surprised. And finally rallies and protests were allowed, and general elections were declared by Indira Gandhi, and obviously everybody started hating her. So this was the first time a non-Congress government came to power, and everybody from right to left, they united against them. This is called a Janata Party government. You might be knowing about it. And Morarji Desai became the Prime Minister of the India. He was the oldest Prime Minister of India. And rolling plan were introduced from 1978 to 79. So in this election, worst defeat was there, as I was talking about. And 43rd and 44th Constitutional Amendment Act were introduced, so that the 42nd Amendment Act can be changed to some extent. But the amendment of 42nd Amendment Act still stays, and Janata Party was not able to fully achieve its objective. Then you also have Shah Commission. So it was a commission of inquiry which was appointed by Government of India in 1977 to see what all happened during the India's emergency from 75 to 77. And this Turkman Gate and Muzaffarnagar firings, they were discussed at length by Shah Commission. Then you had rolling plan from 1978 to 1980. So what they did was they said that the fifth 5-year plan was completely dismantled, and this was how it has to be done, like rolling plan. Every year there will be a plan. And this plan, when 1981 Congress party came in power, when Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister again, so she rejected these rolling plans, and a new 6th plan was made. But now there is no plans, like all the plans are gone. There is Niti Aayog, there is no planning commission altogether. So this is what happened during India's emergency. Let's hope that such emergency and such brutal measures are never ever taken again in India's democracy, because otherwise it kills the spirit of the democracy. So thank you for watching this lesson. Have an awesome day.